All right. Bobby, can go ahead and turn your camera off if you would, please. Okay. All right. All right, everyone okay now? Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
All right. This is the assignment, what I want you to do for next week. You're going to have to learn the alphabet. Got to crawl before we can walk. I know language is not normally taught that way. We normally teach to speak it, but we're trying to learn to read it primarily here. And so we're going to go back. We have the cursive Greek script right here. Most of it's cursive. This first letter is uppercase, but most of the rest of them are lowercase, except for Jesus, Jesus, and Christ, Christu. So they capitalize that. What we run into here is this is English letters transliterated, it's called. And what we want you to do is go back and put these into Greek letters. But what that's going to mean, you're going to have to figure out what the S corresponds to, the O and the P and the H and the I and so forth. And what we have is we have a PH. We have one letter that's a PH, so kind of remember that. And the I and the A and N. So we need to go back to all of those letters and look at them and see what they are and just write them out in Greek as best you can. Now remember, there are two O's, and so the distinction, we're going to get back to it in just a minute. A short O and a long O. The short O is the Omicron, and that's what we see highlighted there. And it's with a long line over it, accent mark the long line over it here, is right here, is the long O, okay? So we have right here, right where my cursor is. So that's a long O. So what you want right there, we got it highlighted. So we got those two O's, and we got two E's. And so there's an E like this, and there's an E like this. Again, they're different, and they're actually different letters. So we have those two letters, E, eta, and the epsilon. So we'll come back to them. And let's go back up here now. When we write them, the E will be this letter right down here, epsilon. And then the eta will be this letter right here that's got an accent mark on it. And so that's the long E. That's the one, the E with the long. Let me find it up here now. I've got to find one. Right here, where my mouse is. That's your long E. That's the one we've highlighted here. Okay. So that's your distinction you ought to make. So let's go up to our language, our alphabet again, and try to get it worked out. So there is alpha. Alpha. It's the A as in father. A as in father. Everyone got that? Alpha. Ah as in father. It's pronounced like an ah in father. A in father. Ah. And we get it in words like apostolos, anthropos, dogma. See the A, the alpha here, and the alpha here. There's an alpha here. Scandalon, and our word scandal comes from it, to cause to stumble. There's your alpha. Analusis, analusis. And so the accent is on the second. There's two alphas here. And Sabbaton, and that's Sabbath. And remember, you break apart when you pronounce the two consonants that are double consonants, beta, beta, it's your beta, beta. And so you break it, Sabbaton, and you break it right in the middle between them, make a syllable break there. Deca, 10. Ecclesia. And so the alpha at the end, solo, and that's the I sing. So that's where your alpha is used. It's used a lot of times. Of course, all the letters basically are used to a large extent. Some are used more than others. Now we have a beta, and it's written out in Greek as beta, and we write as beta. It's the B, like the B in ball, beta. Baptisma. Baptistes. Notice the accent is at the end. Up here, baptismo, you accent the A off of baptistes, and that's the tes ending is one who does something. Baptizo. And so baptizo is I baptize. This is a verb. Okay. So we're looking at different parts of speech here. We're just looking at the letters. The B sound. B as in ball. Barabos, 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 Barbaros, Barbaros, Barbaros. And that's a barbarous person. Someone who doesn't speak Greek. To the Greeks, if you didn't speak Greek, you were a barbarian. Biblos, notice the accent on the E, iota, Biblos. And so we get our word Bible from it, that's a book. Blasphemia, blasphemia. We got two authors in this one here. Bar Jesus, Bar Jesus, Bar Jesus. And that's Bar Jesus. Sophia, wisdom. Phobia, fear. Presbyteros, elder, presbyter. All right, so we get to beta, alpha, beta, gamma. There's your G sound. G, g, g. Sound as in go, gamma. Synagogue, synagogue. And so the eta is long. It's a long eta. And so that's a long eta. Okay. So it's a long E. So when you're translating it, you should put a line over the E here to distinguish it between the. Okay. All right.
Really?
All right, everyone okay?
Synagogue has a upsilon as the second character.
Synagogue. Synagogue.
Is that translated as a Y sound or like a U sound?
Wait, what? Which one?
The upsilon.
The upsilon, the second letter, can be translated as either a Y or a U into English. Okay.
But in Greek, you pronounce it as synagogue or synagogue.
An sound.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Synagogue. Synagogue. So we got a gamma here. We got two gammas here in this one. And so again, a logia. And so we got two gammas in this letter, logia. And logia is something written down, so it's a saying. And so this is a genealogy, see? And so, glossa. And our English word glossa. Now remember, you break it between glossa. Break a syllable between the two double letters. Glossary. And our English word glossary comes from it. It's the word tongue. So a glossary in a book is the words. Usually, it's the words that are probably hard to understand that are put in the glossary. In my books, I put glossaries in them of words that are kind of difficult. Now, in my books, when I wrote, I put any word that's only found one time in the book, I defined it in a footnote. So you wouldn't have to run to the glossary, but if it's found more than once in the book, I put it in the glossary, a difficult word. That's how I did it. Each writer has to do his own thing, and that's what I've done in my writings. Pragmatia, pragmatic is our term. Pragmatia, see the gamma here, pragmatia, pragmatic. Genesis, okay. Gnosis. And so the break is right, gnosis. And that's the idea of knowing. Dogma. And our word dogmatic comes from it, dogma. Agora. 3 syllables, agora. And that's a market. Logos, that's the word. And magos, the magi, the wild men. So we have a gamma in a bunch of these words. Gamma, G is in go. A delta is the next letter, delta. It's the D sound as in do, delta. Delta, that's the word. Dogma, and then delta. Deca, 10. And the despotes. And this is one who is a strong ruler. Usually, it does not carry the idea of considering the needs of the other person as much as the kurios ruler does. And this person may be a dictator, may not be, but they're all powerful. Okay, derma, of course, our English word epiderma, endoderm, and so forth are used for skin. Okay, that's skin. Dendron is a tree. And you'll hear atheists talk about dendrochronology. Chronos is time. And so that's dating by tree rings. Dendron, tree. Dendron. You have two deltas here. Cardia, and of course our cardiac, or heart. Cardiologist, he specializes in heart. Cardia. Exodus. Exodus. And our word exodus, that means it's the hodos, the last four letters are with a rough reading on it would be the road, and X is out of, the preposition out of. So Exodus is the road out, such as the road out of Egypt for the children of Israel. Doxa, and our word doxology comes from this, doxa. And again, that is a doxology or praise. Dunamis. Right here, I can't get that to move across there, but that's all right. We're okay with it. Don't worry about it. Dunamis. Our word dynamic comes from it, dynamo, even the word dynamite. And I heard one fellow, preacher, he say, well, we're not trying to blow people up, but the point is not blowing people up. The point is power. It's illustrating power. Dynamite has power. And our word dynamite comes from this basic Greek word, and it carries the idea of power. Okay? All right. Here's some more words that have a delta. And some of these are very common words. We have day and we have day. And notice they're almost the same, except the one has an epsilon, the other has an eta, long E and a short E. And they cover pretty much the same ground, but there's a subtle difference in them. Okay, so be aware of that. So the next one, it's an E as in met, epsilon. Episkopos. And that is scopos, a scope, like a telescope, a microscope, so forth, would be to look. And epi is upon, and that's a preposition for upon. So that is a bishop, an overseer is probably a better translation of it. And he goes out, or this person goes out and looks over things to make sure they're being done correctly, or make sure all of the business is being taken care of. And of course, that would be an elder. They should be busy making sure the Lord's work is being taken care of. Epistole. Notice the accent is on that last letter, eta. So we have epistole. And so we have epistole. And so epistole. We have four syllables in that word. And that's just a letter that's being written. We get a heteros. Now notice the difference here. And the only way I can see to do this is just to repeat it, let you see the rules and go back and forth. But Matt spent a week or two doing this. Heteros. Now why do we get an H sound? That's an epsilon. Because the rough breathing right above it, that backwards, see that backwards quotation mark? It leads to the right. And there's a quotation mark, single one that leads to the left over here underneath the word. And then here also. This one gets an H sound, remember that rule. And our word heteros, Greek heteros, is another of a different nature. So it's something different. So if anyone teaches a different doctrine, and that's different nature than what's been taught, say, so that word would be used there. It's come into the English language, and that word is found in a lot of biology words relating to biology, okay? And so we will see that in a lot of biology words. Ego, and our word ego comes from this, and it is the pronoun I, first person pronoun I. If you got a big ego, you have a big I complex. So that's probably, and I'm almost positive that's where the word ego came from. It's just a transliteration of that Greek pronoun. Ecclesia, of course, we have to begin with an epsilon. Ecclesia. And so that is the called out group, called for some specific purpose. That's the word translated church. Ethnos, notice here, ethnos. Ethnos is a nation, and that's the word translated Gentiles or nations, same word. Ethnic, our English word ethnic comes from it. Now then, ethos. Now notice there's not a new in it. They almost look the same. There's just one letter difference. Ethos is a word for ethics. And if you took some graduate work in philosophy, they would talk about this term, ethos. Okay, they would talk about it. So ethics. Okay, our ethics as Christians is determined by the Word of God, strictly by the Word of God, as I understand the Bible. Theos. Theos would be God. Now that word is used for the true God and for false gods too. Of course, in English, we capitalize the word G, God, when it's the true God, and we use lowercase when it's the false God. That's our rule. I suspect that rule is going to change with the changes in our society. Okay, there'll be lowercase God, the true God. Okay, Petros, and that's one of the words for a rock. And Petra is another word. This is a masculine rock, and Petra is a feminine rock. Petros, and notice your epsilon, Peter. Peri, notice two syllables, peri. Each vowel gets a syllable, peri, and that our word perimeter comes from it. And we could talk about periphrastic constructions. You're phrasing yourself all around the point and talking all around it, but not addressing it directly. It's kind of in a roundabout way you're addressing something. Pericardium is it's a sac that surrounds the cardia of the heart. So the word peri is in a lot of English words. I would say go to the Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. You can access it on the internet. Of course, I bought a copy of it, but you can open it up on the internet and you can find a whole bunch of words that begin with peri, P-E-R-I. And perimeter, for example, is two Greek words. Peri is around, and metron is to measure. It's a measurement around something. And right here we have L-E-O, the two epsilons together, and so that splits it apart. L-E-O, 4 syllables, but only 5 letters. Notice 4 of those are vowels, and none of them are diphthongs. See, so they're not diphthongs. So we have 4 syllable, and it's only 5 letters in the word, but 4 syllables. Now this should have an accent mark on it here, and I'm going to put it on there because it needs to be there. Yeah, I will do that later. I messed it up. Okay. I messed it up. I'm sorry. I just won't save it. It won't be there. Okay. Zeta. Now this, your teeth should vibrate. It's a dental. A dental sound is right off your teeth. Zeta, zeta. And then zeta, you get a DZ, or like in ads or fads. DS sound, fads, ads. Z. Almost feel your teeth vibrate. Zeta. Baptizo, baptizo, baptizo. And the zeta right there. Rontizo, baptize is to immerse. Rontizo is to sprinkle. Right? Zelote, zelotes, zelotes, zealot, zealot. And he has zeal, say a zealot. Zeus, and this is a diphthong here, epsilon, epsilon, Zeus. That's one of the Greek gods. Zone, 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 or girdle. And that would be a belt that goes around someone. Zeugma, zeugma. Epsilon, epsilon is a diphthong. Zeugma, 2 syllables. Zeugma. And that's a yoke. And it's pronounced zeugma. All right. Eta. And so it's the epsilon sound as in way or pray. P-R-E-Y, pray. A. So you get that E sound that you get from those. Akme, akme, akme. And this is akme. And I should have an accent mark on this. I need to go through this on my main file and put these accent marks on it that belong on there. Athletes. The word athlete comes from this, zoe, and that's life. Now, when we have 2 words for life, and one is bios, and the other is zoe. And whenever we're talking about spiritual life, it's always zoe, never bios. Spiritual life would be zoe, the higher kinds of life. So it's a higher form of life. Another word here, and I just lost it. Amen, amen. Amen is not a Greek word. It's a transliterated Hebrew word. And I've been told, I was reading in some sources that were pretty reliable, that the word amen is in more languages than any other word. And it's and it's a Hebrew word, which means it's firm, or F-I-R-M, or established. Denarion, and denarius, that's some money. Day and delta, and then we have an eta here. The artheke, 2 etas here. That's a covenant. There's 2 kinds of covenant in Greek, and only one of them is found in the New Testament. A suntheke and a diatheke covenant. The artheke covenant. The artheke covenant that we have in the New Testament is a covenant between unequals, where one has total power over the other one, and he determines all of the terms of the covenant. Okay. Then we have this letter here, just by itself. It can be one thing. It can also be an article, the word the. It can be a pronoun, or it can be the word or. So again, the accent marks of it will tell you what it is, right? And so we'll come to it later. And here is Hemera. Notice the rough breathing on it. Gets a little bit of an H sound, Hemera. And this is the word for day. And aper. And this gets an A sound. Let's go back to it. It's the eta. It's the A sound as in way. Amen. Amen here, right? Now, the letter theta, and next one is theta, And this looks like an O with a line through it. So we need to look at it. It's TH sound. There used to be a theta sound in English language. When the original 1611 King James translation was made, there was still a letter with the TH sound in it, and it dropped out. It dropped out of the language. So around 1769, they revised the King James Version. They dropped about 3 letters out and put a couple of letters into the language that hadn't been there before. And so they made modifications in the language. And this TH letter was dropped out, okay? And so it looked like the horn. It was called the horn. My memory's right about that. But your early King James 1611 that has some letters in it that are not in our later King James. The King James that we use today is the 1769 edition, not the 1611. Okay. All right, any questions? Okay. Arithmos. And our word arithmetic comes from it, or it's the word for number. Theatron. And that's theater. Notice the theta sound. Arith, th. Thanatos. And there was a poem, I remember when I was in high school, we had to read the poem Thanatopsis. That's the name of the poem. And it's a poem about death, is what it's about. It's the word death. Ethos. And our word ethics comes from this. Ethos, in 2 syllables. Ethnos. And that's the word ethnos, or ethnic. Right? Theos, that's God. Thronos, you can hear the word throne in it, can't you? You see, a lot of our English words come from Greek words now. You're beginning to learn that. Thesis, our word thesis comes from this. Anthropos, anthropology comes from this. Study of man. This is mankind, man and woman. It's human, it's basically a human. Pathos, our word pathetic comes from this. Pathos, feeling. Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah, I'm just going to go through this. I think we just need to be sure we got it all squared away. And I'll have time for next week. I gave it to you a moment ago, but I'll go back and make it clear. Iota. That's the I as in police. Gets basically an E sound. I as in police. Police. And this next one up here has a rough breathing over it. A back leans to the right. That quotation, single quote, that leans to the right above it. That means it gets an H sound. Historia. And our word history comes from this. And idios. Now, some people think that's an idiot, but it's not. Idios right here is this word. Idiotes is, and the word idiot comes from it, but actually it's someone who has his own nature, and he has his own characteristics. And an idiot may have his own characteristics, but this is one who has his own characteristics. And we have several words that are linked together in didactos, and there are several words that relate to teaching. And I deal with all of these words in my book on the role of women. You can go into it and see a pretty thorough study on these words. And so the didaskos, teacher, didactos, one. So we got one who is easy to teach or is willing to be taught, but consider the evidence, be teachable. And then we have someone who is taught. And then we have the verb form, didasko, one who teaches. So there's several words that spin off didaskalia as the doctrine or what is taught. Okay. Idioma. And that would be an idiom. And that's the word for it. It's its own characteristic. It's something that is peculiar to that language or to that person, usually with a language. We have some idioms in English that are different. We'll say something a certain way, and it will shade the meaning of it. And I can't think of anything right now, but later on we'll come up with some idioms. We'll see some in Greek as well. Anti, anti. Now the word anti, many people think it means against, and it does, generally speaking. But literally it kind of means just standing opposite on the other side. Basically is what it means, anti, anti. So standing on the other side, anti. Fine. And if he's on the other side and it's an army, he's against you. And now notice right here we have a rough reading, Erus. That's a priest, and our word hierarchy comes from it. Hierarchy. Okay. Paralusis. Paralusis. So break it up. Paralusis. Paralusis. We put the accent over this second alpha. And of course, this is an iota. And so we have paralusis. All right. Where am I? Then the iota is right here in this. Okay. Can you hold on a minute? I gotta check something. Hello?
Yeah.
Just ignore it. This is Marion. Hartman. Okay. I don't know. I have a burglar alarm in my house, and my daughter should be there. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. All right. Okay. I can't leave the class. All right. Paralusis, our word paralysis. Paralysis. Class, I'm going to have to pause a moment. Hey Siri, call Marion Fox.
Marion Fox. No.
Do we have a burglar alarm at the house? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. I didn't think there's anything wrong. Okay. All right. My son came in the side door and set the alarm off. Okay. All right. Okay. Paralusis, and E. Okay. Iota. And our word paralysis comes from it. Episkopos. And that's episkopos, that's one who looks upon things. Baptisma. Baptizo. I baptize, that's a verb. Police. That's the word for city. Our English word police comes from it. Idios, right down here, this word, and I'm moving my mouse over. This word here means it's on. Okay. Any questions? Anybody? All right. The next letter is kappa. And it gets a K sound as in keep, kappa. Cosmos. I hear this word cosmos. And that's kappa, cosmos. And our word cosmos comes from it. It means something that's orderly. And our English word cosmetic comes from it too. And again, we have down here with this next one, we have ecclesia. And there's your kappa again, double kappa. So you'll break it between ecclesia. And that's translated church, but it's called out ones. So you really need to study the idea of church. That word church is rarely misunderstood. So some people think it means a building. And so it may be used that way in English, but it's not used that way in the Greek. Now, I realize, figuratively speaking, the people are treated as if they're a building, but that's a figure of speech. And apocalypsis, apocalypsis, apocalypsis. And so right here we have a kappa, apocalypsis, and our word apocalypse from it. Now, some religious groups, the Roman Catholics being one group, refer to the book of Revelation as the apocalypse. And that comes from the word revelation, to uncover. So you uncover something, you take a covering off from. Apo means from. So remove a covering from something so that it may be seen. I have no objection to calling the book of Revelation the Apocalypse of John. I have no objection to it. I don't believe it's wrong to call it that. Catastrophe. Catastrophe. And our word catastrophe comes from it. Catastrophe. Koine. Koine. And that's the word common Greek. Kleptes. That's a thief. Notice the tes ending, those three letters, there's someone who does something. See it right up here with this idiotes. You'll see it a number of times. That's the person who does that thing. Cardia, and here kappa, cardia. Accents on the L to cardia. Our word, it's the word heart. Apme. Scopos. That's a scope to look at something. Unknown. Our word canon comes from it, and that's a yardstick or a meter stick, a measuring stick for something. Okay? It's found 5 or 6 times in the New Testament. Now, we have several other words here. Let's look at them before we get away from it too far. All right. Kata is a preposition found many times. Kako, I don't know that that's found very many times, but it's a Greek word. Kerugma. And so that would be preacher, okay? Or what is preached. Karpos. And katabino. Bino as I go and kata is down, so I go down. Kata balo as I throw and kata is down, so I throw something down. Any questions so far? Lambda. And this is the L as in lambda. Solo, we break it apart, solo, 2 syllables. That's I sing. And this should have a smooth breathing on the alpha here. Apostolos. And we have the lambstolos, apostolos, in the word apostle. That's one set out with authority or with a charge to do something. Biblos, that's the word for book. So we have a lambda and a los, biblos. Okay. And delta. And that's the word delta. That's the name of one of the letters. Okay. Glossa, and so we have a lambda and a glossa, tongue. Leon, that's a lion. Analusis, and the lucis is to loose. So analysis is you loose things and bring them into the individual parts. So you look at all the individual parts of something. Philosophia, philo is perfection, and the last part, Sophia, is wisdom. So it's affection or love of wisdom. Blasphemia, that's to speak with the desire to harm somebody. Kilios, and 3 syllables, Kilios is the idea of 1,000. Okay. Leo is I speak, lambano is I take or receive. This is a word that I think needs to be looked at more carefully by the translators and by interpreters. I argue that lambano means, and the lexicons will tell you it means to take or receive. And so which is it? I take it to be giving or taking, receive or to give. And so what you have is, it could be a passive or active voice. And I think it would be should be translated differently when it's active and when it's passive voice. Okay. Lego is I speak. And it's a very interesting word if you study it, and we have notes for you to pick up literature on this, quoting some various things. But Lego is to say and to enumerate things, to list them, to enumerate them, list them out. Beyond, lithos is a stone, but it's a shaped stone. Logia is a saying, a small saying. Logizomai is to reckon or to put things in an order or a list, right? You're a person who's writing a tally book or something like that. The next letter is mu. That's an M as in man, mu. Mysterion, and that's the word for mystery. Metathesis, and we get back to the word thesis, and then meta is a preposition, okay? Moros, and that's a moron, and that's someone that's kind of a foolish person. Magos, my guy, now notice your move. Martus, that's a martyr or a witness. Now this is also spelled a different way. There's two different spellings of this word, but that's not uncommon. At one time there was all kinds of spellings for the English words. Mikros, this word up here, that's something very small. Our word micro, prefix micro comes from it. Then we have metron, and our word meter, to measure, that means to measure, comes from it. Baptisma, and then there's two words here, and they're baptisma and baptismos. We won't get into them, but if you have my book on the Holy Spirit, I distinguish between these two words, and I show the distinction between them, and that would make a good lesson for preaching purposes. So we won't go into that right now. Mesopotamia, and so what this is, Mesopotamia, we pronounce it, how we pronounce it. And we put the accent in a different place, Mesopotamia. And this is the land, and Meso is between the rivers. So it's the land between the rivers. That would be the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, Mesopotamia. Meta, again, another preposition, morphos, metamorphosis. Now, a Christian must go through a metamorphosis. I believe this word is found in Romans 12, but I have to go back and check it. But it's found, I think, several times. But the idea of a change from within. Now, we can change, like we can take a piece of clay and form it and make it look different, but it's still clay. But this process is like a little caterpillar goes through metamorphosis, and that's the word that's used, and becomes a butterfly. And so we should go through a metamorphosis, an internal change. God intends to change our hearts. And in doing that, if he changes our hearts, and our thoughts, and our words, and our actions will all be changed, because the heart's right. Now, if someone said, well, you just saying all it needs to be right is heart. I say, if the heart is not right, we can't be right. We have to have the right heart to serve the Lord. The heart must be right. Any questions? We're going to go one more letter, try to do the new. We'll pick up on it next week. We'll give you 2 weeks to work on this other stuff, because we're going to have to go through the rest of these letters. New. We've been through this already, but we've got to cover this. New, and it's an N as in now. New, nah. Penta. How many sides does a pentagon have? It has 5 sides. Penta is 5. Pneumatikos. And this is the word for wind or breath. And so it has to do with something that is spiritual. Our English word pneumatic comes from it. Nymphone. So you have your two news in it, beginning and ending. Nymph, our word nymph comes from that. Naos. this is new. A neophyte is someone who's new at something. An elder is not to be a new convert. I don't know how some of the modern speech translations translated, but he's not to be a new convert, basically. Okay? Naos is new in nature. Kanon, and I will get back to that kanon, that's the canon or the measuring stick. Koine, we had that earlier, koine, and that's the word common. And the Greek we're studying is Koine Greek. The Greek language changed. Somewhere I'll remove something here. I just won't save it, I lost it. Okay. All right, I'll come back to it. Just won't save it when I get out. All right, are there questions anybody has? All right. We have one letter here, and I'm going to go through it. We'll come back to it next week. But we have the C. It's a different looking letter. We don't have anything like it. It's a KS sound, or the KSI. Box. Box. The X in box. Get a KS sound. Exodus. 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 Doxa. Glorified. Doxology. Climax. Climax. That's ladder or climax. Sarx. Sarx. Flesh. Our word sarcasm comes in. Oxus. Sharp. And our word oxygen basically probably flows out of that. Proxies. Proxies. And this something is a practice. Our word practice comes from this. Exhale, tone, exhale, tone. Should be a smooth breathing on this over here. And ale tone is to go out, that's to go. And then X is out of. Xenos, our word xena as a prefix, has xenos, has to do with the stranger. Nukes, night. Okay. Zurao. Okay, Curao. Curao. Let's stop there. Let's see if you have any questions. If no questions, we're going to end class. Any questions?
I have a question, but it's not about this, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So in writing the Greek letters for some of the lesson, like in English, we write left to right, generally speaking, the flow is from left to right.
Yes.
But there are some letters in the Greek where it seems like you almost have to go right to left, like alpha. I don't know, is there like some methodology that's developed?
When I write the alpha, I write it from, I start on the right and go to the left. We'll wrap it around itself. That's how I write it.
Okay.
Sorry. But Greek is a language that goes from left to right when you read it and write it, generally speaking. Some of your letters may have to be made that way. And alpha is one of those. Okay, it tends to be that way.
About 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right. We'll start here with this. And let me go back and show you what we want you to cover. Okay, we'll start with Omicron, and we'll go with it. But I want you to work on this. We'll go back. I want you to work on this right down here. Write the cursive Greek script and try to write into English letters. Let's work on both of those, probably for the next 2 weeks. Just try to work them out and see what you do with it, what you get, okay? Everyone okay? Questions?
Yep.
You can take this file and copy it, just cut and paste it. Just cut and paste it. Put it into another file for yourself, and then put space between them and write underneath it. That's what would be the easiest to do. And then you won't have to copy this down. You just cut and paste. Do the same thing with the Greek below. Any questions? All right.
No.
Don't say. All right. All right. Let's just stop it. Stop it for you.